Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a story that's part family drama, part agricultural nightmare, and all parts hilarious horror. It's called Attack of the Vegan Zombies, and trust me, you're gonna want to hear this. Our story centers on Joe and his wife Dion. They run a winery, a family legacy passed down through generations. But things are not going well. For the third year in a row, their grape harvest has been a complete disaster. The vines are withered, the grapes are shriveled, and their finances are drying up faster than their crops. They're on the brink of losing everything: the farm, the winery, their home. The bank is breathing down their necks, and the foreclosure notices are piling up. Joe is at his wit's end, trying every conventional method he can think of, but nothing is working. The stress is immense, and the couple finds themselves arguing constantly, the dream of a successful family business turning into a waking nightmare. Dion, watching her husband's spirit break, decides that desperate times call for desperate measures. She has a secret weapon, or rather, a secret relative. Her mother, who happens to be a witch. Now, Dion isn't exactly a true believer, but with foreclosure looming, she's willing to try anything. She swallows her pride and skepticism and goes to her mom, begging for help. Her mother, a woman who finds magic in the mundane, agrees. She performs a ritual under the full moon, chanting ancient words over the barren fields and anointing the soil with a strange, glowing potion. She promises a harvest so abundant it will be spoken of for generations. Joe, of course, is kept completely in the dark about this magical intervention. He just thinks Dion's mom came by to offer some moral support and maybe a few old-world gardening tips. The next spring, something unbelievable happens. The vines don't just grow, they explode with life. They're thick, green, and practically pulsating with energy. The grapes are the size of plums, glowing with a faint, otherworldly light. They're the most beautiful, perfect grapes anyone has ever seen. Joe is ecstatic and completely baffled. He credits his new organic fertilizer and a change in weather patterns, completely oblivious to the real reason for their sudden success. The crop is so massive, so overwhelmingly huge, that there's no way he and Dion can harvest it all themselves. They're going to be rich. The winery is saved. To handle the bumper crop, Joe decides to hire some extra help. He puts up flyers at the local college, and soon a group of energetic, if slightly clueless, students arrives at the farm. There's Chad, the frat boy who's more interested in flexing his biceps than picking grapes. Tiffany, who's documenting the entire authentic farm experience for her social media followers. And Kevin, the quiet, nerdy one, who's actually read a book on video. They're a motley crew, but they're cheap labor, and Joe needs all the hands he can get. The harvest begins, and at first, everything seems normal, aside from the strangely vibrant grapes. But this is where our story takes a dark turn. Their nosy neighbor, a grumpy old man named Mr. Henderson, who has always been suspicious of Joe's family, starts noticing some strange things. He sees the weird glow from the fields at night and hears what sounds like faint whispering coming from the vines. His prize-winning petunias that bordered the vineyard have started to wither and die. Convinced Joe is using some kind of illegal, toxic pesticide, Mr. Henderson decides to investigate. One night, armed with a flashlight and a healthy dose of suspicion, he sneaks into the vineyard to get a soil sample. He wanders deep into the rows of unnaturally large vines, the air growing colder and the whispering louder. Suddenly, a vine snakes out and wraps around his ankle. Before he can scream, he's pulled off his feet. The ground beneath him erupts as figures claw their way out of the soil. But these aren't your typical zombies. They're made of twisted vines, knotted roots, and decomposing plant matter. Their eyes are glowing, unripe grapes, and their mouths are filled with thorny briars. They are the living embodiment of the cursed crop. They don't want brains. They're vegan zombies, and Mr. Henderson, having recently eaten a salad, smells absolutely delicious to them. He becomes the first victim, dragged down into the earth to become fertilizer for the next generation of monstrous plants. The next day, Mr. Henderson is missing, but no one really notices. The college kids are too busy with their harvest time drama. Chad is trying to impress Tiffany, who is annoyed that there's no Wi-Fi in the middle of the field. Kevin, however, notices something is wrong. he finds Mr. Henderson's flashlight near a patch of disturbed earth. He also notices that some of the vines seem to be moving. He tries to warn the others, but they just laugh it off. Chad calls him a paranoid nerd, and Joe tells him to get back to work. They're on a tight schedule. That night, the real horror begins. As the sun sets, the vineyard comes alive. The vegan zombies rise from the earth, dozens of them, lurching through the rows of grapes. Their target, the harvesters, the college students, who've been munching on grapes and fresh farm vegetables all day, are like walking buffets to these creatures. The attack is swift and silent. One of the students, listening to music on his headphones, is pulled under by grasping roots before he can even make a sound. Panic erupts. The students run screaming, but the vines are everywhere, treeping Tim, grabbing Tim. The zombies aren't fast, but they are relentless, and they're using the vineyard itself as a weapon. Joe and Dean hear the screams from the farmhouse. They rush outside to see a scene straight out of a nightmare. Plant-based monsters are swarming the fields, dragging the terrified students into the earth. Joe grabs his shotgun, but the pellets just rip through the zombies' vine-and-leaf bodies, which quickly regenerate. This is when Dion finally confesses. Through tears of terror, she tells Joe about her mother's spell. She never thought it would lead to this. She just wanted to save their farm. Joe is furious, but there's no time for blame. They have to survive. Now, the question isn't how to harvest the crop. It's how to keep from being harvested. It's Joe, Dion, and the few remaining terrified students, Chad, Tiffany, and Kevin, barricaded in the farmhouse against an army of produce-powered predators. They realize the zombies are drawn to anyone who has consumed plants grown from the cursed soil. This includes all of them. They've been eating salads and snacking on the very grapes that spawned these monsters. Kevin, the nerdy hero we didn't know we needed, starts frantically researching Dion's mother's spell books, which she conveniently brought over. He discovers a weakness. The zombies, and the mother vine they're connected to, are vulnerable to a specific type of herbicide, one that contains a high concentration of salt. Joe remembers he has a huge stockpile of rock salt for dicing the farm roads in winter. Their plan is born. They need to get to the barn, mix the rock salt with water in the crop sprayer, and douse the mother vine, a massive pulsating plant at the heart of the vineyard that seems to be the source of all the zombies. What follows is a frantic, action-packed sequence. They make a desperate run for the barn, using weed whackers, chainsaws, and even a well-aimed bottle of wine as weapons. Chad, in a surprising moment of heroism, sacrifices himself to save Tiffany, holding off a horde of zombies with a flaming scarecrow. Inside the barn, they work frantically to rig the crop sprayer. Tiffany, using her social media skills for good, live streams the chaos, her post captioned, "Oh my god, vegan zombies. Not a joke. Send help. Zombie apocalypse #vegan horror." With the sprayer ready, Joe drives the tractor, converted into a makeshift armored vehicle, back into the field, Dion manning the sprayer nozzle. Kevin navigates using his knowledge from the spellbook to guide them to the mother vine. It's a final showdown. The mother vine fights back, lashing out with giant tendrils as the remaining zombies swarm the tractor. Dion soaks the monstrous plant with the saltwater solution. It shrieks a sound like 1,000 trees being torn apart and begins to wither and dissolve into a pile of black sludge. As the mother vine dies, all the other zombies crumble into dust and compost. As the sun rises, the survivors Joe, Dion, and a traumatized Tiffany and Kevin stand in the wreckage of their vineyard. They're alive, but their farm is ruined. Just then, a fleet of black SUVs screeches up the driveway. A team of government agents in hazmat suits emerges, led by a stern-looking man. He holds up a phone showing Tiffany's viral livestream. "We have a few questions," he says, as his team begins to quarantine the entire farm. The story ends with Joe and Dion sitting in the back of one of the SUVs holding hands. They lost their farm, but they saved the world from the threat of salad-craving zombies. And somewhere, Dion's mom is probably brewing a new spell, muttering to herself, "Well, that could have gone better." And that's the wild ride of Attack of the Vegan Zombies. A perfect blend of horror, comedy, and a little bit of social commentary on organic farming. What did you think? Let me know your favorite part in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story breakdown, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.